Hello folks, I'm Dan. Back working on the 701 today. So what I'm doing is I'm working on the forms for the fuel tank ends. I've taken one of my fuel tanks that we've previously tacked into shape, set it up here, and all I've done is trace the outer edge of it. So ideally we'd want these all to be exact lengths, exact size, and everything matches, but everybody's fuel tanks, if you're scratch building, are going to be a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I've got some curved lines and everything. I know the edges of these tanks have to be straightened up. So all I'm going to do is straighten out my lines. And there's a couple of things that I want to make sure is right. We want a straight line across the bottom, and we're going to have, I believe, 90 degrees at the back, and probably the front too, and then our top will intersect it. So what I'm going to do is just straighten out these lines and kind of average everything out. And we'll go ahead and cut form blocks off of that and form up one. And if it's not quite right, well, we'll tweak it a little bit. But anyway, that's where we're at. So should be relatively quick and easy here today. And I think we want to be just about there. I'm going to lay this out and I'll compare it to at least one other tank and make sure I'm not really tweaked out of shape too bad. We'll see what we've got here. Looks like we've got a little bit of a parallelogram on this bottom edge. So straighten them up just a little bit. I don't know if those lines are going to show up for you or not. Let's see how this measures out compared to the ends. Should have about 200 on the front, and we're very close to that, and 100 on the back. That looks pretty good. And 488 across the bottom. Good. And 502 across the top. Well, I'm pleasantly surprised there. That looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and use that as my form. I'm going to cut it out. We'll slap it down onto a piece of plywood and cut us a couple pieces of plywood and go from there. Now we'll undersize this just a little bit to take into account material thickness. I'm actually surprised that my dimensions are that close to what the plans call for. In reality, I could just transfer those dimensions to my form blocks and cut them out there, and I think they'd probably be fine. But what we'll do is we'll go ahead, we'll just glue this down to one side of the form block or one piece of form block and go ahead and lay it out there, and then we'll double check measurements and kind of tweak them a little bit to match. Alright, well, we've cut us a couple pieces of plywood. This is good and solid. You want to kind of be sure that the edges you pick are as free from voids as you can, just so they hold up better. And that will fit on there right along that edge like that. So what we'll do is we'll just glue it on there. This, of course, will be the inside of our form because it's the better side of the plywood. The back side's got some voids in it here, which won't hurt a thing. And we'll just take and put two pieces of plywood together with on this. Now we're going to do the good sides out, and then we'll go ahead and cut them out, smooth them. That'll be enough to hold those together while we cut them out. So I'll go cut these out now. Alright, now I've rough cut and sanded my edges smooth on the outside of this. I've just taken it to my belt sander and got it close to where it just about fits into the tanks the way I think I want them. Now I know I'm not at 90 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to my oscillating spindle sander, or my oscillating belt sander, and just going to square them up to 90 degrees. And what I've done is just taken some paint, dusted the edge of it. I know my table's 90 degrees to the sanding belt, so I'll go and sand, and when I get rid of all of the green or just come to the top edge, I know I've got 90 degrees all the way around. Alright, well, our edges are all sanded now. See, we've gotten rid of our little green guide coat that we had on the edge of that. And we've got good solid surface all the way around. You want to be sure and avoid any voids. If you've got just small ones in there, you can go back and fill them with wood putty or whatever. But anyway, this fits in the end of our tank pretty well. I think it's going to be the right size to form around. So what I'm going to do, I've got both halves here that are just tacked together with brad nails. So I've got our two outer edges here, or our two inner faces here. So we want a radius edge on this edge, and we want a radius on this edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and leave them tacked together for right now. I'm going to go ahead and set up the little router table, and I'm going to route my radiuses on both sides of that. And before I route them, I'll put another coat of green for a guide coat on there, just to let me know when I've reached the edge of my radiuses. It won't matter when I route the edge, but when I cut the bevel for the springback, well, I'll just intersect that unpainted surface that I've routed off. So that way we maintain our integrity of that radius. You want to be sure and put your radiuses on any of your form blocks before you put your springback bevel on there, because otherwise what happens if you try and put your radius on afterwards is your form blocks are undersized, because if you're using a bearing on your router bit for that radius, why it's going to set in farther because you've already got a bevel. So be sure and put your radiuses on before you cut your angles, or before you sand your angles for your springback. Anyway, I'll go set up the router table. We'll get those routed. Alright, here's my setup for routing my roundovers. My little homemade router table. 1/8 inch roundover bit. That's all get that out of the way. And that's all that's necessary on the roundovers on those. Now I will hit that with a little bit of sandpaper after we've got the rest of it done, and just smooth down any little oomps that are on there. All of that feels pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the two pieces apart, pull out the brad nails. I've got 6 brad nails holding this together. And then we'll go ahead and set our springback angle on the oscillating belt sander, and we'll go ahead and get that sanded. Well, we've set our springback angle on our belt sander here. Get this down to where we can get everything really dirty. And all we're going to do is cut our bevel. We've got our edge here. Make sure you do the right side up. Smooth on the bottom. Okay, there's the first one done. If you can see, we've got a nice little bevel dropping back. That'll be our spring back. Now what I'll do is just lightly take some sandpaper, probably about some 150 grit, just by hand, and I'll run over the top of that and smooth that out just a little bit. But there's our first one done. We'll go ahead and do the other one and get that done. Here's our second one. Exact same thing's going to happen. I won't make you sit through that. So we'll get this one sanded down and take it back into the shop where it's a little bit warmer and finish this up. Here's our pieces. This is going to be the inside. We've got our bevels here, and we just want to lightly sand those down. Make sure we've got a real nice transition all the way through. Now we'll need 4 left sides and 4 right sides, so that's why I form my blocks this way. And the way they will go together is your blank will go in the middle. And we've got, let's move this up here so we can both see what's going on. You look at that, we've got angles down on both sides for our spring back. We've got our nice radius, and it goes that way all the way around. We'll clamp those together since we need lefts and rights. Why, rather than just having a smaller backing board on one side, I make 2 duplicates, or I make 2. 4 of them will bend to this side, and 4 of them will bend to this side, and that'll give us our tanks. The only tough part about this is there's no index points or index pins or bolt holes through them. So what we'll have to do is just set our blank in between and clamp them together, and then form them over. Not that critical, just have to be a little bit extra careful to make sure you've got the blank in the right position, in the right orientation, the right position when you start to bend it, so it comes out even all the way around. Anyway, that's the way I make my form blocks. With this, next time we'll go ahead and cut out our blanks and start forming them and see if we can't get those done. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful. If you do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up if you like them, and if you've got any comments or suggestions or questions, leave them in the comment section below, and we'll do our best to answer them. And thanks for taking the time to watch.